Right.
Latara, I am so excited about having you on because I
Me
know
too.
you're a
Thank you so
digital,
much.
pardon?
Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm super excited
Yeah.
to be a part of this.
Yeah, and as a digital marketing strategist, I know that you have a lot of experience in this area. In fact, 20 years in marketing and graphic design, 10 more years in online marketing. You definitely have the track record and the skills to show everyone. And folks, Latara is going to be talking about how to build a strong online presence by having a voice. And isn't that what we've all been talking about all weekend is having that voice? So Latara, I can't wait to hear what you're going to be talking about, or I can't wait to hear your presentation. So, but may I start off with one question?
Sure.
How did what was, briefly, what was your path to here? Because you have so much background in all these different areas. So how did you get from there to here?
Okay, so thank you. That's a great question. I was in the publishing space for 18 years. And as I stayed within the company, my job became grander and grander. And I thought I had, job immunity because I had actually been in this company so long. We weathered a recession, and the number of employees was reduced by 40%. And I was one of the people that stayed within the company. And we went from having one flagship product to having to spread out across the board to try to find new areas of revenue.
Yeah.
And that taught me a lot, just living through that recession and coming out on the other side without having the business go under. And so, I figured I was in a pretty secure place. I had a career. I thought this was my lifelong path. And lo and behold, during the COVID shutdown, I was laid off. Yeah. And I tried to take everything that I knew already, and I wanted to go out and start my own neighborhood magazine. And I tried and floundered for about a year. And I realized that even though I knew everything about publishing, like I could basically create a publication from scratch, I knew nothing about sales.
Wow. Isn't that one of those things that bedevils us? I came out of higher education, and I literally closed my first business because I didn't know, I knew nothing about marketing and sales. And, it was that whole build it and they will come. It didn't work that way. So I literally closed my first business, which you'll get a kick out of this, was called Career Windows. I didn't take into account that when somebody types Windows into Google, they're going to get 40 pages of Microsoft Windows.
Yes.
So we all go through these learning curves.
Yeah. And when you become an entrepreneur, or if you run your own business, you have to become the salesperson, at least for a little while, until you can start hiring people. Right. And so that was an eye opener right there. It's not what you know, it's how you can generate leads, which is more important.
Absolutely. That whole sales process. And I know that most of my clients are coaches, some consultants, and I know that they dread those sales conversations because we were taught these sales conversations that seem manipulative. Yes. These tactics that, you get off and you don't feel good. You feel kind of icky after you get off the phone.
Right. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why I dove headfirst into marketing, because if you do marketing right, it does a lot of the selling for you. Yes. And it does a lot of the objection handling for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So because of my fear of sales and I didn't want to go out and do cold calls and whatnot. So I dove into the world of online marketing, specifically attraction marketing, because I think that if you have people coming to you asking for your help, that gets rid of the sleaziness.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I totally understand what you're saying there. If they're familiar with you.
Exactly.
That visibility and that credibility.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. And a lot of the attraction marketing has to do with building that trust and rapport, even before any sort of transaction is mentioned.
Right, right. And people go through stages with that, don't they? The buyer goes through stages as they get to know you.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
speak to that just a little bit.
Okay, sure. Well, I can go through my system with you, which is
That would be
creating a strong
great.
online presence by having a voice. And this is kind of a play on words because when it comes to branding, that is your voice. Your brand is your voice, and that is what makes you distinct among the crowd.
Absolutely.
And I found when I first tried to do my marketing towards people, I was saying, I'm helping you with your branding. And then I realized that nobody knows what branding means. So,
They think it's a tagline, a logo, or your colors.
right, exactly. But it's everything. Your brand is an extension of you. And that's a really good way to look at it is you said a similar quote yesterday about your brand is what people say about you when you're out of the room. But I wanted to tweak that just a little bit and say your brand enters the room before you do.
Yes, and when people talk about your brand being what people say when you leave the room, I think at first we go okay, and then we start thinking, oh my God, is that what my brand is? I wonder what they were saying. And instead, once you understand what a brand is and how to use it, that's the way you go. So, do you have slides that you want to share?
No, I'm not going to bring any more technical issues into the equation
here. Yay! Great. So we would love to hear about your system and your stages.
Perfect. All right. So first of all, as we were talking about it, attraction marketing, you want to be attractive, right?
Attract the right people.
Yeah, exactly. And there's so many people that they don't even have a photo on their social media profile.
I have a husband like that.
So one of the things you have to do is you have to actually look professional. If somebody sees your personal profile or your business page, you want to have that first impression dialed in, because if you have a nice, professional headshot on your profile pic, and then you want your banner or your background image to say something about who it is that you serve and what problem you solve. You want that all to be right there at the forefront.
Right. Yeah.
And so that kind of leads into the visibility part, which is the next step. So it's A is for attractive, V is for visibility. You'll see a trend here in a minute. and 80%, probably more now, because online marketing is becoming more and more important every single day. So this is probably a dated statistic, but at least 80% of consumers are going to do their research about you before making a buying decision.
Right.
So that's why you actually want to have a website. And I think that there's a lot of misconception around your website. Your website is not there to it's not quite as active as, say, a landing page or a sales funnel, because you're getting them to go into a certain set of steps.
Right.
But it's there to add to that credibility and that trust. Because if somebody does research about you and that they could see that you have this history, you have this track record, you have these case studies, all these different things kind of lend to the fact that you are an active, credible, trustworthy, successful business. So that's part of that visibility. And next, we go into omnipresence, which is kind of extending that out into multiple platforms, because the more places that people see you, there's two parts here. The first part is you're creating multiple touch points. And as we all know, that's becoming more and more like it used to be. Like you'd have 7 touch points before leading to a sale. Now, like you were saying, it's like 20 now. It's just insane how many times.
It's really, and it keeps going up.
Yeah.
It keeps going up. And it's such an important concept. It's so important to understand this. I remember seeing, and I can't remember who it was that put this up, but he said that by the time you got to, I think it was 17, messages or opportunities, 99% of people have given up. So,
Yeah.
and I get that, none of us want to feel like we're being pushy, but there's a difference between being pushy and providing value.
Yes. And this is a little bit of a tangent, but I love the direction that we're going here because you do want to, that's a very important. The follow-up is extremely important. The problem that a lot of people have is that they are so focused on just the urgency and the scarcity part of doing a launch that they hone in on the people that are ready to buy right now.
Yes,
but
exactly.
80% of those people aren't ready to buy right now. So what are you going to do with them? You're just going to chuck them in the trash? No, you do all this work to get them here, to get them into your email inbox. And so now you have to nurture and kind of, create this customer journey with them. And that's a huge portion of the marketing aspect that a lot of people are just not even paying attention to.
So they send out, something to advertise, a program or a service or something, and they don't persist. And I can tell people, I have a client right now that I met 7 years ago, and I have marketed to her and done all of this and kept in touch. And she just decided that she wanted to use my services. People can be way back in the time machine.
Exactly. Yes.
You don't break people off unless they're, you keep that message going.
Exactly. Yes. And we will go into that a little bit more towards the end of this presentation, but these are really good questions, and I will get back to that exact thing. So if I don't, bring it back up again, because that is extremely important, and there's a lot of things going on right now that are making things a little bit more difficult to do that, but I'll be addressing that in just a moment. So the second part of the omnipresent is that you want to be top of mind. So when it comes to advertising, you might ask yourself, why are companies like Coca-Cola and McDonald's advertising? They're already well known around the world. Everybody knows who they are, but they keep on putting commercials out. And that's because it's one thing to have people know about you, but it's another thing to have you be at the top of mind, so that when you're hungry or when you're thirsty, that's the first thing that you think of. So that's another reason why being omnipresent is very important. And in that vein, and also in the vein of branding, you want to make sure that if you are on different social media platforms, that your branding is consistent, so that if people see you in one place and then they see you in another place, they can connect those dots. So you want to make sure
you're on brand or off.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So the next one is informative, inspirational, and clear. So that's I. So you want to make sure that when you're putting out content, you want to do it on a consistent basis, because if somebody goes to your Facebook business page and the last time you posted was 3 years ago, they might think you're out of business.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and if you're only promoting things, then people will unfollow you because they don't want that in their face all the time. So what you want to do is you want to provide valuable content. So you want to make sure that it fits one of those categories, whether it's interesting to the person, that they're going to be like, wow, I've never knew that before. This is really cool. They might even share it on their feed, because it's like, whoa, I didn't know this. And then the other one is informative. And this lends to your authority and your credibility, because if you are the one that is providing information about a certain topic, then people are going to come back to you again and again and again, going, this is valuable information that I need for my business and my problem.
Right.
And even if it's not your content, like, you don't have to personally create this content. And this is a little hack. You can share other people's information about the topic, and you're still seen as the authority.
Right. Yeah.
So then the last one is inspirational. So one of the ones that goes viral a lot is inspirational quotes. And again, that doesn't have to be your quote. It can be a famous leader or celebrity's quote. in that same industry that you are in, and you just post that and make sure if you do that you have your logo on there or something that ties it back to you, so that if it does go viral, you still get that visibility.
Yeah, and I think that's something a lot of us forget.
Yeah. So always make sure that everything has some element of branding to it. And it could be as subtle as the colors, and branding is just another concept altogether. But I don't know how in depth we'll get into that today. But
it may not be in within the confines or whatever, but we will keep going with this.
Yeah. Okay. So now we're on to C. And C stands for convenient and clear. So like I said before, when somebody lands on your Facebook profile or your business page or your website, this holds true. You want the most essential information at the top of the page, and what they call above the fold, because a little side note, that harkens back to the good old days of newspapers.
Yeah, that's right.
Headlines. All of the important headlines were at the top of the newspaper, so that you could see it before you open up the newspaper. So that's where that came from. But now it means everything that you can see on somebody's page before you start scrolling down. So that's why you want your header to have that information. So if somebody can see right away what you do, there's no guesswork. You want to take all of the guesswork out of. That's one of the key things of marketing, is taking the guesswork out, making things as easy and succinct and clear as possible. And you also want to make it super convenient. I'm sorry?
I said I hadn't thought of that. That's important.
Yeah. So it's not only that you want to make it clear, because a confused mind does not buy, but you also want to make it super convenient. And I am astounded at how many people don't have a link on their profile, because it's one thing to be super spammy and salesy and pushy.
Yeah.
But it's another thing to provide information readily when somebody is ready to buy. So if you make the assumption that if somebody lands on your profile, they're already ready to buy, then how can they take the next step with you?
Right.
This can be a link to your website. It can be a call to action of some sort. It could be as simple as book a one-on-one call with me. Here's my calendar. Or it could be a lead magnet. You can have some sort of call to action on there with a link that they can click, not just an image of the link that they have to go in and manually type in. Because if there is any bar to entry, people are going to use that as an excuse to not move forward. So you want to just make it boom, 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 super simple, super easy, super convenient. Everything is right there. You don't have to go hunting for something if what problem you solve speaks to somebody and they're in that perfect moment of wanting to buy right then and there. How can they do that? So always keep that in mind when you're setting up your social media profile.
Those barriers.
Yes, remove the barriers. Exactly.
That's great. So I can't wait to hear what the rest of what is the E, or have we?
Oh, okay. So the E is for engaging. So up until now, everything that we've talked about is pretty passive. That's part of the attraction marketing is you're there and people come to you. But it's not a one-sided thing. You can't just rely on that alone. You do have to have some sort of proactive part of this. And that's where the engagement comes in. So you want to be engaging. If somebody comments on your post, you want to comment back. Because what you're doing in online marketing is it's a digital conversation. And when they comment on your post, if you reply back to them, that makes them feel important. And it makes them feel heard. And then that starts that dialogue. And this is doublefold, again, because I love things that do two things at once, if you haven't noticed. So one thing it does is it makes that person feel important. It starts that conversation with them. And on the other hand, it also increases your algorithms, because the more interactivity there is on a post, the higher your algorithm goes for that post and the more people it reaches. So you're actually getting more and more people to see this post by not only just liking their comment, but replying back to them. And to continue that conversation, you might end up going from that public facing conversation to, say, messaging them and direct messaging them. And, you might say something like, well, if you're interested in this topic, I can give you this free report. And then boom, they'll say, oh my gosh, yes, I'd love that. Okay, here's the link. And then there's the link to the lead magnet, which takes them over to off of the social media platform. So your social media platform is doing its job by getting those people to talk to you initially.
Right.
You don't want to leave that conversation there. You want to take it off of the social media platform.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a point I keep making to people that, social media is great. I specialize in LinkedIn, so that's my area. But you don't sell through social media. You have to get them off the platform. And I think, I think people are afraid of that because they're so afraid of all the spam they've been getting and the manipulation they've been getting, that people just react that way and don't know how to make that bridge.
Yes. Lead magnets are a wonderful tool to do that with. Excuse me. And once you get them onto your landing page, you want to get them to enter in their name, their email, and their phone number. And what I like to do is I like to make the email mandatory, but the phone number, not required, because
I think that's a very good move.
They'll just exit out of the page.
Yeah. And that is a serious barrier, I think, because there have been times when I've seen something that I would have opted into, but there was that issue. So
And I do like to have that there, but not required, because if they do give that to you, then you can text message them. And text messaging is actually overtaking email marketing as being more effective. At least for the time being. This might change in 6 months, who knows, but we marketers always have to stay on our toes.
It's well, if you want to listen to the fear mongers, they would say that we're just going to be X'd out completely and it'll be AI that takes over, and you still have to have a brain in there.
Yes. And actually, AI is not going to take over your job. The person that adapts to AI quickly is going to take over.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, and you brought up a really good point there, because email marketing, there are a lot of regulations and changes, and it's going to be a lot more rigorous. Especially going into 2024, there's a lot of more rules going into 2024 that they're going to be implementing. So you have to be more careful about email marketing than ever. And this is why one of the things that you should do on your landing page is you should always have that GDPR compliance at the bottom saying they have to check off a box saying, by submitting your information, you agree to receive correspondence from me in the future.
Yeah, that's an important point.
Yes. And just, if you're doing email marketing, keep an eye on the rules that are rolling out. You want to make sure that you dial in everything, you dot all your I's, you cross all your T's, because they're going to become a lot more rigorous about that. So
and Latar, may I ask you something about that? I just lost it. But it was something you said, and I'm sorry. This is the third day. My brain is a little tired.
No worries. Yeah, this is a huge subject, and first of all, let me go back to the landing page. The first thing you want to make sure you do is you actually send them the thing that you promised them on the landing page, because if you don't email them the free ebook that you promised them, then trust is right out the window. You might as well just take them off
absolutely. So
once you have them in there, you instantly give them some sort of confirmation that their information has been received, and give them the lead magnet. That's the first thing. And then some people, that's all they do. They're like, okay, they're on my list.
That's right. And I think my husband has an email called Manassas Pulaski or something that he signs up with, so that he doesn't actually have to see what they bring in after he gets the freebie.
Oh gosh, how funny.
Funny. It's his way of doing it. But yeah, I mean, if you lose that trust, you've lost. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't regain that trust
Mhm.
because you have actions speak louder than words.
Yes, exactly. And to go back to your thought about the emails, and it take 5 years for you to sign up for something. I know it took me 3 years to sign up for some big high ticket thing, and
Sure.
if they had removed me from their list because I wasn't buying anything, then I would have been gone from there. And that's one of the things about the new regulations that I kind of disagree with, is that they are giving the subscriber a certain expiration date.
Oh,
If they
really?
don't buy within a certain amount of time, then it starts going into all sorts of
Interesting.
anarchy.
I remember what I was going to ask you. The GDPR, I know, was a requirement for Europe. Is that now, do you see that in the United States, or?
It is required in the United States.
Okay.
And even if it's not required, I would recommend that you do it anyways.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
It's one step towards securing your own status.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you.
And so once you get them in there, you don't want to just leave them hanging. You want to keep that conversation going. And this is where there is a huge divergence in opinion of how often you need to be emailing people.
Oh.
And I don't know what your opinion is on this. Maybe I should ask you so I don't step on your toes.
My opinion is quality over quantity.
Yes, I
consistency.
agree. Yes. Definitely quality and consistency. And so some people say you should email people every day. And I've also encountered quite a few people who say, if somebody starts emailing me every day after I subscribe, I'm going to unsubscribe. Because think about it, you're not the only person marketing to them. They have hundreds of people emailing them every single day, if not thousands.
Absolutely.
So you don't want to be a bee in their bonnet. You want to make it like the consistency part is probably even more crucial than how often you do it, because pick whatever is convenient for you. I would say a good rule of thumb is anywhere from once a week to once a month, depending on how often you want to send content out, and have it be actual content. Don't just email them saying, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know I'm still here."
And I don't know that inspirational quotes go as well in email as they do, on social platforms.
Not
I think
so much,
if somebody's emailing me, I want the information.
You want some substance.
Quote isn't going to do it.
Yeah, exactly. That's a really good point. I agree completely. And now, if you have a quote at the top and then you write your own article about what your insight is about that quote, that's different.
Yeah, point of view.
So, but yeah, that you do want to make sure you have at least a monthly newsletter going out.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're doing a launch, like if you're launching an event or a product or a service or some promotion, then you can ramp it up. Then you can maybe go once a day, because you want to build that excitement. And you also, if when it comes to the deadline of that launch, I would say at a bare minimum, if you don't do the daily thing, at least send out reminders to the people that actually opted into the launch 2 days ahead, 1 day ahead, the morning of, 1 hour before, 5 minutes before, and then when you go live.
Yeah, and that's important, because I know you deal with funnels. That's your expertise. And to be honest with you, understanding how to put a funnel together, I understand some of it, but I don't understand, the entire process, as far as, what, I don't know quite how, what is some guidance you could give us on how to do that nurturing so that it becomes that funnel? Am I asking that correctly? Like I said,
I think so, but I might have misheard you. But let me try to answer that and see if this answers your question. So first of all, I had this revelation recently that everything we do is a funnel. All of the things that you're putting out there on social media and YouTube and on your website and on your blog posts. It's
Right.
all
Okay.
getting people to move into this customer journey, and you want to have that not only clear to prospects, that you want to make it clear to yourself where you're leading people. And that's why I love reverse engineering things, so that
Yeah.
you start with the end in mind. What is your ultimate goal? What are you trying to get them to do? Do you want to get them on a one-on-one call with you? Do you want to get them to buy your program? Think about that and then work backwards from there and say, what would be the logical step for them to take to get to that? So if you just set up a landing page, people are not going to come to it. You need to have some way of getting them to that landing page. It's not like the Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. Because you're fighting with all of these other people out there.
Right.
And if you go to Google and search anything and you see those zeros and zeros and zeros after the,
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why they call it Google.
That's right.
Just a mind-boggling number of people out there that all have that same answer. And you can also think of, for that matter, you can also think of people's inbox as the first page of Google, because that's one of the reasons why you want to be consistently emailing them, is because you want to be at the top of that inbox. And if you're so the question that you asked, it depends on, are they already on your list, or are you attracting people in? Like, is it a stranger, or is it already a contact?
Yeah. And so, when I think of the funnel, I think of, a series of messages, that you're sending out. And I think your concept of, start with the end in mind, and then figure out, what they need or what you need to do, what steps you need to take them through to get to that buying point.
Exactly.
Am I understanding that correctly? Okay.
Yes, exactly.
So they're going through the funnel, and you've gotten them off at the landing page or the social platform or whatever you're using to get it out there. Are there, and other than emailing them way too often, are there other things that could occur that would cause people to, to opt out, to leave? Because, it seems like there could be messages that are uh-ohs, or, that slow people down. And the GDPR is obviously one of those things, because you're establishing that trust. Are there other essential points that you need to have in your messaging? Is it sequential?
You do want to build on top of, like, each message, you want to build on top of it. So that's why, if you have this overarching strategy of what you're trying to accomplish with this, that you're not just sending out aimless email content, that it's all leading up to this. Like one of the things is, overcoming objections before you get to them, is you can send things like social proof, case studies, testimonials, things that make it show that you have this track record of success with your other clients, so people are more likely to want to work with you. Another thing that you can get them to do that is highly engaging for them and makes them feel heard is asking them for their feedback. So you can ask them questions, or you can have them fill out a survey. And that's good on two parts, again, because on one part, they feel heard, and because they know you're listening to them, they want to know what you have to say. And on the other hand, you're understanding your client better and how to better serve them, because you can guess what their problem is, or you can ask them what their problem is. And which one is going to give you better results?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is one of the hardest things to explain to a client, or, someone who hasn't done this, because that does happen. That is the way it occurs.
Yeah. And just as far as the sequencing goes, what you can do is you can break down what ultimate goal that you have in mind for them is, and then you can break that down into chunks, and then you can address different chunks in each email. So let's say, what are the top five essential things that I need to know about XYZ topic.
Yeah.
And have email one talk about one subject to the, each email is a different part of that.
Yeah, that's a great point. Going to the horse's mouth and really letting that guide your content.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that's very hard. When that is the sticking point a lot of times with clients where they don't understand that. They don't understand the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that you're right. I think a lot of people struggle with content because if it's like I have to email these people every what do you choose every 2 weeks or whatever? Yeah. What am I going to be sending them? But you also you want to always have your email have a reason behind it. You don't want to just send it out to send it out, whether it is building your authority or creating social proof or solving little tiny micro problems that might be stopping them from moving forward with you. Because the ultimate problem that you solve might not be the problem that they're facing right now. They might be facing these other things that you need to address in order for them to get to that point where they're like, yeah, let's move forward.
Oh, that's a really good point. Because that's why they call it a funnel, right?
Yes.
You're bringing them through that.
Yeah, and I actually have this diagram where it looks more like an hourglass than a funnel, because you have all of these people coming into your funnel from different places, and then they go through your actual like online funnel, and then there's all these other things that you can get them to do at the end.
That's cool.
And speaking of your like online sales funnel, a lot of people leave out certain things that could really, really maximize their return, because if you have a lead magnet and people go to opt in to grab your lead magnet, and then you get sent to a thank you page, right? Instead of just having a thank you page, you can have an upsell on that page.
That's great.
You can have another call to action right there, because you're getting them when they have the most attention on you and what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
Right in this moment. And you have this little tiny window where they just entered in their information. They had to concentrate to type all of that in, and you got their attention at its peak at that moment. But then you're just letting them go and you're not doing anything with it.
Yeah.
So if you add an additional call to action after they opt in, then you're going to increase your sales and your conversions.
Yeah, and we have been talking throughout this summit about how important it is to get them engaged. And yes, it's great to get them to enter their information, but yes, that upsell, or even if you're in a conversation with somebody, the downsell, if you know your system.
Yes.
If you have when you get to that dreaded sales conversation, it really isn't dreaded anymore, because they already know you. They already know the value that you provide. So it's more of are we a good fit at this point?
Right.
Which is so much more comfortable when it comes to sales.
Yes. Let your marketing do the selling for you, and then when it comes to the sales, they'll just be like,
"Oh yeah, okay, I used to promise myself, I'm going to make these calls, and no matter what happened, I never made the calls. I would get to the point where I'd say, okay, to my husband, I'd say, okay, if I make 15 calls this week, we're going to dinner and a movie. And not only would I not make the 15 calls, my husband would be pissed off, So this, anything that makes this process more comfortable and more authentic and lets us feel more comfortable in communicating with people, I think.
Exactly. And you brought up such an awesome point, which is that authenticity. And I think that maybe some people out there feel like if you have an automated system, then it's not authentic. But the ultimate goal is to be working with your customer. And so you are developing, you're building this relationship. Everything that you're doing, keep in mind that this is part of this ongoing relationship. And that's a huge aspect of marketing, is you don't want to just come across as cold and one-dimensional. You want
and I think you're right too. You've brought in this whole concept of it's studied. It's not just winging it. I think so many people just want to fill that space. You know, I said I was going to send out a newsletter on Tuesday, and I just need something to put out.
Exactly.
You know, and I can't think of anything that would be more damaging, you know, in terms of that. You know, so you've got to keep them involved and engaged and going through that funnel. Listen, I want to make sure that we get time to offer this amazing gift that you've provided. So could you tell us a little bit more about tell us about the cheat sheet for ebook and access to the masterclass recording?
Yes, this is all a part of the system that I was referring to before, which was creating a strong online presence by having a voice. And the cheat sheet gives you that breakdown so that you can have it like right next to your computer, so that when you're crafting your social media posts, you bring elements of that into everything that you do to increase your marketing effectiveness. And I have an ebook that kind of goes in depth a little bit more into each topic. And then the masterclass is my presentation that I didn't want to show on the screen today because of technical reasons. I just wanted to keep it simple. But yeah,
sure. Yeah, and thank you for that.
Visuals for that, then you can definitely download it all there.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Latara, and thank you for making it so easy. And I look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you so much. This was so awesome, and I look forward to working with you in the future.
Thanks. Bye-bye.